Welcome to our sphincter class. Working with the sphincters can otherwise often be known as a Kegel exercise, but what we do differently is we break down and we see if we can activate the 3 different sphincters. Improving your sphincter control is amazing for improving bladder and rectal continence. Let's start by standing with feet directly underneath your hip joints, so just hip width apart, arms resting down by your sides, and just give yourself a moment to be quiet and to be relatively still and just to observe how you feel. How is your breathing? How is your posture? How is your mood? And if you notice that you're holding any excess tension anywhere, you can invite it to leave, to be released. You can let go. Breathe in fully through your nose, allow your lungs to expand, and then breathe out fully. So I would love for you to stay as relaxed as possible as we move through this sphincter class. We don't need to create tension in our face or our jaw or our neck or our shoulders. Take your left hand and you're just going to rub it on your sacrum. So you're going to rub your sacrum up and down. So the sacrum is the base of your spine, and just below your sacrum you have your coccyx. So as we're rubbing, we can swap hands if you like, either with the palm of your hand or with more of a fist. As we touch various body parts, it really helps to put them on our mental map. So we're much more aware of them, we can see them more clearly, we can work with them more efficiently. So, right at the very bottom of your sacrum, you have your coccyx. And in front of the coccyx, we have the anal opening. So you can keep your hand on your sacrum, or you could just creep your fingertips forwards a little bit so you're kind of around that anal opening. And the anal opening has a sphincter called the anal sphincter. And I would like you to contract your anal sphincter, or what you think is your anal sphincter, and then release it. And we'll just try that a few times. The feeling is as if you're trying not to pass wind. So you're going to contract the anal sphincter and then release the anal sphincter. Contract and release. So it's almost like a camera shutter closing and then opening. Camera shutter closing and opening. And as well as this closing, you could get a sense of lift and then lowering and release. The camera shutter closing and lifting, and then releasing and opening. Try that just 3 more times. And notice how easy or challenging it is to isolate this sphincter. So isolating it without gripping your glutes or changing your posture. And I promise this becomes better with practice. So that's the anal sphincter. Really important for rectal continence. In front of the anal sphincter, we have another sphincter which attaches from the pubic bone, and it comes all the way around the vagina or around the base of the penis. So it attaches from the pubic bone and clitoris and all the way around the vagina or all the way around the base of the penis. So now I'm going to invite you to think of contracting this middle sphincter. The vagina itself is a muscular canal. So the rectum is a muscle, the vagina and the uterus are muscles, and the bladder is a muscle, and they're surrounded by muscles. So you're going to think of contracting this middle sphincter. So perhaps close your eyes if it's helpful, or you could even bring your fingertips forwards to that vaginal opening and just see if you can imagine a camera shutter closing and opening, closing and opening. And because the vagina is a canal, rather than it just being at this very low level, you could think of the whole vaginal canal kind of closing and contracting and then releasing and opening. Contracting and closing and then releasing and opening. Let's just try that another 5 or 6 times. So I fully appreciate how challenging it can be to isolate these different sphincters. And it definitely gets better with practice. It's like you're building new neural pathways to this part of your body that is asking for more support. And we'll do 2 more. So closing the vaginal sphincter or around the base of the penis and lifting, and then releasing. The final sphincter that I would like us to look at is the urethral sphincter, the external urethral sphincter. So our bladder, it lives just behind the pubic bone. So if you place your fingertips on your pubic bone, go slightly behind, and that's where your bladder is. So if it's empty, it's kind of dropped down behind the pubic bone. If it's more full, it lifts up, and you can feel it. Now at the bottom of this muscular bladder, we have the urethra, and we have an external urethra, which is at the base of the bladder. The internal urethra is at the base of the bladder, and then the external one is a little bit further down. And this is the one that we can voluntarily contract, the external urethral sphincter. So take fingertips to pubic bone, and you may just want to keep them there, or you can just slide your fingertip back a little bit onto the urethral opening and see if you can imagine that one closing and then opening and closing and opening. It is a smaller sphincter than the vaginal one, the bulbospongiosis. It's a smaller sphincter than the anal sphincter, but it's mighty. It's small but mighty, and it really helps to support the bladder. So very important for bladder continence. We'll do 5 more. And these exercises you can practice any time because nobody can see that you're doing them. You could be boiling the kettle in the morning and just think, I'm going to do my sphincter exercises for 2 minutes. And I promise they get easier with practice. So now let's think of these 3 sphincters from back to front. You can imagine a zip from your coccyx to the anal sphincter, to the vaginal sphincter, to the urethral sphincter, to the pubic bone, and then a zip is going to undo and release. Let's try this about 10 times. So if you can imagine a zip from your coccyx to your pubic bone, you're going to think of zipping the zip up, integrating the zip, closing it, and then opening it. Closing the zip, and then opening it. Like all of these muscles integrate and come online, and then release. All of the muscles integrate, they're activated, and then they're released. So the sequencing is anal, vaginal, urethral, and then we release. So 1, 2, 3, and then release. Keep going. The orientation of these muscles is on a diagonal. So anal sphincter, the middle sphincter, and urethral sphincter. So you're zipping yourself up on a diagonal, upwards, and then releasing. Last couple. Well done. So our last exercise is the same thing, it's the zip, but we're going to go a little bit faster. Little staccato contractions of the zip. It's brilliant to practice them slowly, but also these muscles need to have resilience, and they need to be able to react quickly. So for example, when you're caught unawares and you sneeze, cough, jump, laugh, etc. So I'm going to do this little staccato clap, and every time you hear it, you're going to zip, release, zip, release, zip, release, zip, release. Okay, here we go. Ready? Ten more. Well done. Okay, take your legs a little bit wider. We're going to gently move the pelvis from side to side. So isolating muscles has its place in building strength, rehabbing muscles, but it's not the whole picture. So we don't want muscles to only be able to contract. We need them to be able to release so that we can move. Let's bring this into a circle. So if you can imagine those 3 lovely sphincter muscles just moving through space here as you're coming into a circle, and perhaps just imagine them contracting accordingly to your movement. So you wouldn't want to be totally contracted the whole time because that would make your movement really rigid. And it means that the muscles aren't resilient. They can't respond to the demands of your movement. Let's go in reverse. Beautiful. And then we'll come back to the center. Bring the feet once again underneath your hip joints. Take your hands into fists and just tap around your pelvis. A lovely exercise to release excess tension in your glutes. What you'll start to notice as your core, which is pelvic floor, abdominals, lower back, diaphragm, psoas, your QL, etc. As all of those muscles start to integrate and work more as a team, you will lose peripheral tension. You'll notice that you'll have less tension in your glutes, less tension in your neck and shoulders, less tension in your jaw. Okay, so standing, arms down by our sides, and just noticing, how do I feel now compared to the very beginning of the session? Is there any difference in my posture, in how my feet are connected to the floor, in my center of gravity, in tension levels, in ability to be present with body? Well done. To complete our session, we're going to open our eyes and take a beautiful deep breath in. Reach up and look up, bring your hands together and all the way down to your heart. And one last one, inhale. Let your lungs fully expand and then exhale. Well done, and thank you so much for joining.